I will say the reason people keep saying this is deja vu is because it is deja vu. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking out, and, Senator Peterson, I think you'll remember 6 years ago, the last time I think there was a joint meeting between the Senate Select Committee on Women and Children and the Women's Caucus was about sexual assault. And it was October of 2014. Once again, the media is what called everyone to the table. And I will say at the time, I don't know if Senator Peterson remembers this, but I was what I would say more of a new advocate at the Capitol and coming to, tell everyone, I guess, what survivors were experiencing. And I said to her, it's really tough to be an advocate having the knowledge about all the wrongs that are happening to survivors, but without the power to do anything about it. And she asked me who has the power. And at the time I told her I didn't know. But I can say confidently today, it's you who have the power. You have the power to make change, but it does take political courage, because people will come back when there are policy recommendations and they will say, we can't do this. We don't have the resources to do this. This is just how it's always been done. And I know this hearing has been focused on LSU and they're in the hot seat, but our entire state has continuously failed sexual assault survivors on every level. It is not just in our educational institutions. We are one of only a few states in the country not to fund sexual assault services. And that is where it starts. Our entire culture for this state, it's not just at LSU. It is the state and our response to sexual assault. Anytime a federal law is passed that says that we have to be in compliance with it, we are always in compliance with it after we basically have become the media's friends, because survivors don't feel like they can come forward. We tell people we come forward with certain information, but we're just knocked down. And so the media has been our biggest ally in getting things changed. It started with the rape kit billing back, we were supposed to be in compliance with that law in 2005, but it's Louisiana. So we didn't become in compliance with that law until 2015. Every single time, I'm not a state government employee. I have argued to the federal government on our behalf that we deserve additional funding because of a law that we did pass. I'm the one who's monitoring it. And so people have said my name and all. It's because I actually, STAR, we have decided to dedicate resources to making sure Louisiana becomes compliant. That's not our job. That's not our job. It's Louisiana's job. And so on every single level, we continuously pass legislation that is feel-good legislation that does not have any enforcement. We have a law in place that says law enforcement or prosecutors cannot polygraph victims. Guess what? It still happens. We have a law that says you can't bill victims for sexual assault exams. It still happens. And in the law, it says there is a remedy. But even still now, filing a complaint about it, nothing is done. And so I know that there's a lot of rhetoric about, oh, we want smaller government. No, the government needs to address these issues. There needs to be oversight. And so, I've made so many things to jot down specific things that have happened, but I'm asking you all to have political courage, because it's easy right now. It's easy when survivors are coming before you, but it's harder when the lobbyists come. And the lobbyists then tell you this can't be done. We don't have the resources. It will require political courage. It will require you all to push back and to challenge people when they come to this table or when they come to you behind closed doors and they say this cannot be done. It can be done. It's about priorities, and our state has never, ever prioritized sexual assault survivors, and we need to change that. So I'm happy to address some specific questions. I think, like I said, I've made some notes. There was one of the speakers talked about, she got in trouble about having like a candle or alcohol. Our law already says that educational institutions should have amnesty policies for nonviolent offenses. Why was she charged? There's so much failure. I think, a couple of the policy recommendations I would say is that survivors, when this happens to them, they have a right to the information that's out there about them. We have laws in place that do not allow survivors to access their police reports, whether it's reported or not, even if it is an ongoing criminal investigation. And I will say, President Galligan is in the hot seat, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say a lot of the fault, nobody is saying his name, and we need to say his name. His name is F. King Alexander. I have personally represented sexual assault survivors where he unilaterally overturned the decision and finding of responsibility for those survivors to have to go back through the process over and over again. And I think that was kind of referenced in the report just because. And I mean, I don't think we've also addressed the fact that survivors have been sued as a result of what decisions have happened in the conduct policies. They get sued. Well, the AG's office can represent LSU, but there's no one that's out there to represent the survivors. And STAR, because of the grant that we have for our legal program, we are not allowed to assist in tort litigation. Survivors are being sued by the perpetrators. And so that's why I think a lot of times they, maybe don't want to I guess, address certain punishments with the perpetrators, because they know a lot of times they have resources. They will sue the school. They will sue survivors. So we need to push back on that. We need to protect. There needs to be something in legislation that allows for maybe the AG's office also, when there's a suit against the school for the same sort of issue, that there's something that protects those survivors from being sued as well. It's currently happening. I'm trying to think of other things. I keep hearing zero tolerance. I want to say, for the record, because it was killing me today, zero tolerance is very harmful language to use. Zero tolerance has certain racial implications that mean that, what we need is swift, effective, and proportionate responses. Zero tolerance makes it harder for survivors to report. And that's why you'll see people who say, well, I don't want to report something because then they may be, it needs to be proportional to whatever occurred. That is also possibly why you're seeing certain investigations where they're saying things do not rise to sexual harassment. Because if you come with the mindset that, oh, this is a zero tolerance culture, nobody's going to report. It needs to be proportional to whatever the continuum of harm is. Those are different things. I mean, and I want to say, President Galligan has reached out to STAR. He has said to us, he knows that there are things that they need to change, and I'm happy for that. I do want to give a shout out to President Henderson, because he contacted me on Twitter a long time ago before this report, and so I do believe that there are people out there that know that they need to take proactive steps. But I got to tell you, hearing some of the other this is the tip of the iceberg. There is so much out there. I told the USA Today reporter, I have enough work for you for over a year. And it's true. I mean, the things you would, if this is making you sick, there's a lot more out there. And, one of the things in the presentation from Scott Schneider, he said, the people who do this work, you get burnt out. Well, I will say, every day of my life, I talk to people who have been sexually abused, and it's hard. But what's harder is when we're constantly going before the systems and they let us down. It's the second rate, right? And to constantly be coming to the legislature and told, well, that really doesn't happen, right? No, you don't really need this type of legislation. It's bull. Last year, Representative Landry brought a bill for me. We don't bring bills and ask for people to help survivors because something doesn't happen. It's real. It's real, and we need those bills to be passed. But every single time, it's easy right now. But when different lobbyists from different interest groups come before you and say, this is not going to work for us, you need to push back on that. You need to challenge them, because that is why we continue to be last. That is why Louisiana never has made any steps forward in really responding adequately to sexual assault survivors.